Your designs dictate your sales. After creating countless six-figure designs and having many of our students right now do the same, we've realized one thing to be true. Successful, winning designs are a result of strategy, not luck. In this episode, we're going to be discussing 3 things that we consistently see amongst winning designs. We're going to be talking about what winning designs are not, and we're even going to be revealing some 6-figure designs, all in hopes to help you make more sales and grow your brand. My name's Adrian Von Arx, here with my co-host, Carlos Colon. Welcome to the Print on Demand podcast, a show dedicated to helping you make money online with Shopify and print on demand. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to the show. Carlos, what is going on?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Really excited about you coming down. And then actually next weekend is my nephew's birthday. And so I'm going to take Savannah down there to go to his birthday. That's going to be lots of fun too. And I see we got another review.
Yes, we did. Man, we got to shout out our amazing listeners. I don't actually know how many people listen to this podcast right now, but for each and every one of you, a very heartfelt thank you. We are now at 6 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Let's freaking go. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate each and every one of you so much. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that's left us reviews, whether it's written or not. We just appreciate it. It helps the show. It helps us expand our impact. And that's what this podcast is all about. So thank you, everyone. And I also want to personally thank Nicole168, who wrote a very kind review. And as a thank you, I just wanted to read what they said. So she said, when I first started with Print on Demand, I was uncertain. Adrian and Carlos have provided me with a clear direction and have addressed my many concerns. They are always up to date with the latest trends. I look forward to more episodes. Thank you so much, Nicole. You're awesome. Nicole. We appreciate you and all of our listeners. And to the rest of you amazing listeners who we love so much, if you are getting value of the podcast and you haven't rated it yet, can you please just help us out by rating the podcast on whichever platform you're listening on, just so we know you're enjoying it. It also helps us reach new listeners, more ambitious, incredible entrepreneurs like you guys who are on the same journey. And we are of the belief that there's always room for great new brands. And so we want to reach those people. So that's it. That's the ask. So with that, let's kind of transition into today's episode. So in our last episode, we talked about the second step of the ELA method, and that is designs. We are very bullish on designs because from everything we've experienced, from everything we've seen coaching hundreds of students from around the world, many of which who have created profitable 4, 5, 6-figure, multiple 6-figure businesses, we've noticed one common denominator. The designs dictate the sales. So let's get into it. We're going to break this up into 3 parts. So the first part we're going to talk about is 3 consistent criteria that we see amongst winning designs. This is from our own experience, having created a ton of winning designs ourselves and having students and friends and researching other brands that have created winning designs as well. So 3 criteria for winning designs. Then we're going to talk about what winning designs are not. So some things that we recommend avoiding to give yourself the best chance of success with your designs. And then finally, we're actually going to reveal some examples of winning designs. And these are all validated 6-figure, multi-6-figure designs. So stick with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into it. So when it comes to creating designs that actually sell, we've really identified kind of those 2 areas, right? Design research and design creation. But now what we want to do is we want to kind of take this a step further. We want to dive kind of like a step deeper. So let's talk about some common criteria of winning designs. And I've listed 3 here. And what we've noticed is that most winning designs are one or all or some of these criteria. So the first one, this one is huge. And that is that they evoke emotion. Maybe you've heard me say it before. Create designs that evoke emotion and relatability, right? That's the second one. But designs that evoke emotion. So the designs that make people really feel something are generally the ones that we have had perform the best and that we see perform the best for others. These could be designs that make people laugh. They could make them cry. They could make them feel empowered. They can show their support for a cause that they're very passionate about. It can even make them polarized, like something that evokes emotion, right? We're gonna kind of reverse engineer some six-figure designs in a bit, and we'll give some examples of that. But Carlos, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to say about that is that for the emotion evoking designs, the idea is that you want to make people feel something.
Yes.
You want to make them feel something. And the number one thing that I see, the number one aspect that I see in winning designs is funny designs.
100%.
Funny designs are probably like the number one emotion or number one aspect of a design that could make a design a winner.
Yeah, 100%. We call that the low-hanging fruit of design creation, because I want to say, like, every single six-figure design that we've created that comes to mind is funny. And I'm sure we've created, actually, I can think of two now that aren't, but like the high majority of our six-figure designs are funny. And so many of the ones that we see performing the best are funny too. So if you want to give yourself the best chance of success, I would like really focus in on funny designs. All right, let's talk about the second factor that we see in a lot of winning designs, and that's relatability. So I said earlier, create designs that evoke emotion and relatability. So relatable means they're just designs that your target audience sees and says, oh my God, that is so me. This brand gets me. They were made for me. I need this. I want this. Or, you have people sharing it on social media with you, a funny design, and they're like, this is you to a T, right? Those designs sell really, really well. So designs that appeal to identity. And we're going to share some examples of those in a bit. They don't have to be funny necessarily. We still think that personally, if I started a new brand from scratch today, I would focus on funny and relatable designs in a particular niche. That would be it. That's what I would focus on. Funny t-shirts for female cat lovers. I'm just throwing an example of one. But anything you want to say about relatable designs?
Yeah. So a few things that maybe people. Well, I think a lot of people think of the first one that I'm going to mention, and the first one that I'm going to mention is the language. So speak the language of your target audience, so of your niche. And so there's always going to be funny slang words that they use, or maybe descriptions that they self-describe themselves in a certain way. Use those things in your designs, and that will make them more relatable to your niche. But then another thing is the aesthetic. The aesthetic of your niche might be a little bit different. So for instance, if you did like a rave culture niche versus say a hiking niche, you're going to have much different aesthetic for both those niches. Hiking is going to be a little bit more calm and relaxing and serene type of colors. Whereas rave aesthetic might be like bold, bright, in your face, neon type colors. And so aesthetic also makes a difference as well. But yeah, language and aesthetic, just keep those in mind. But yeah, obviously the values that you convey in your slogans and in your shirts are also going to be resonating with your niche, and that makes it more relatable.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And really this episode, because we try to keep these episodes pretty short, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I would love to do a series on this podcast where we go even into more depth about creating winning shirt designs that sell, or winning print-on-demand designs that sell. And maybe we'll do that, because honestly, we could talk about this for at least 10 episodes.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the third criteria of winning designs that we see so often. And there's data to back this up. So let's talk about that in a sec. But that's simple designs. So what we've noticed in our experience is that most winning designs are simple. This has been the case for us. This has been the case for our students. And there's even data to back it up. So I'm not saying that it has to be simple, but what we've noticed analyzing a lot of 6-figure and even 7-figure designs is that many of them are very simple. Many of them are even purely text-based. In fact, some of our best-selling designs of all time have been purely text-based. So let's talk about the data though, because this is actually really cool. Printify, for anyone who doesn't know who Printify is, it's one of the largest POD companies in the world. They recently merged with Printful, so they probably are the largest in the world now. But they analyzed their data, and what they found in general was that products with just 1 to 2 design elements, that means it's either purely text-based or it's all text with one single design graphic, those significantly outperformed others. So the report, which you can find, we'll link the report. We should link the report in the show notes so you guys can check it out. But the report shows that products with just a single design element absolutely dominated when it came to sales, with 56% of all eligible sales. Guys, that's like purely text-based designs, a lot of purely text-based designs. So simple sells. We want you to remember that, and we want you to find that inspiring, because you don't have to be a professional graphic designer. You don't have to have intricate art. In fact, in many cases, that actually works against you, because when you actually do the research and you look at the data, many times you're going to notice a common denominator is that a lot of the best sellers are super, super simple designs that you could create in minutes in a tool like Canva, Kiddo, Playground, something like that. Carlos, any thoughts?
Yeah, there's this thing I heard like the other day. T-shirts aren't posters; they're worn at a distance, and it kind of like makes you think. Simple is important, because you want simple, easy to read designs that you can read at a distance, and with bold, clear graphics. Like, you don't want anything too intricate, because there's two things. When people are wearing them, people are reading them at a distance. But then also on top of that, when you're looking at the design on a shirt, on a mock-up, on, say, a mobile, which most people are going to see it on mobile first.
True. Yep.
They've got to be able to read it. They've got to be able to read it, and they've got to be able to make out what the design is. And that's the most important thing to begin with, because if they can't read it or make out what the design is, they're not going to look any further.
Right.
So it's like one part is for the use of it makes sense, but then also on for the marketing side, it makes sense as well. So simplicity sells.
So true.
Yep.
So true. So those are kind of the 3 core criteria. There are other ones, but what we've just found is that across the board, those are 3 very common denominators that we consistently see. Not every time. There's always exceptions. But these are ones that, like, having done this for 9 years and created multiple 6-figure designs, and having known many others who'd created and coached many others who'd created 6-figure designs, like, you start to see the trends, right? When you analyze that many designs, you start noticing things. And these are 3 things that we were able to dissect and reverse engineer as consistent trends. So I strongly recommend remembering these 3 things whenever you're creating your designs. Don't skip the research, of course. You want to go out there and look for validation, but as knowing this, and when you go out there and do your design research, you're probably going to start noticing these 3 things as common denominators amongst a lot of designs.
One thing I will say, Adrian.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. One thing I do want to say is it's also easier to create that emotional connection if it's simple. If you make it too complex and too difficult to understand, or too many distractions, it's too many things in the design, then it kind of drowns out the message. And so messaging is super important, because like we said earlier, like Adrian said earlier, right? You want to create a design that is emotion evoking and that's relatable. And you want them to get that messaging right away, very quick, very succinct. And so creating a design that's very simple, is especially text-based, just text-based is so powerful in this regard, to create that, to deliver that message.
Well said. When they're text-based, all the focus on the text. There's no other distractions. And that can be very powerful. So very well said. All right, let's get into kind of part 2 of this episode, and that's what winning designs are not. So here's what those are. So first of all, one thing that we see quite a few people try with, particularly designers or artists or graphic designers by trade, is that they try to create original artwork. Now, sometimes this is just not those people, but many times we see people try to create original artwork. And I want to give kind of an example to put this into context. So let's say that you are an artist and you paint nature portraits. Well, that doesn't generally translate into a lot of sales with print on demand unless you're already established or if you have a large audience. So we see artists and man, like really talented people. So many of y'all are so talented. But what we see is that a lot of those people, they kind of struggle to break through with their brand because they're just selling this art, which it's beautiful, but it doesn't evoke emotion and relatability for people. And so we don't usually see that selling best. I mean, we talked about it, and the data shows that 56% of the best-selling designs from Printify through their analysis was designs with only one design element, like purely text-based, right? So the truth is that one single text-based design with just a couple words, sometimes even just one word, can far outperform a design from a very talented artist who maybe they spent hours creating. And that's just the way it is. We're not saying this to hurt anyone's feelings. Like, a lot of the art that I see is actually beautiful art, and those people are very talented. But what we've seen, we're just talking about the data, and what we've seen is that doesn't generally translate super well when it comes to print on demand. So let's talk about the next one, and that is your brand name or logo. So this is something that we see a lot of people try. We've tried it. We've had students try it. We've seen others try it, and it's very challenging. And here's the thing, we see this so often. People are like, oh, I want to create a lifestyle brand. And sometimes the brand name is like a word spelled backwards, and it has this really cool meaning, but nobody knows and nobody cares. Like, there's no emotion evoked. There's no relatability because the message many times is kind of confusing or complex, or you have to like read the story to figure out what it even means. And we've just found that when people create a brand, they slap their name or logo on a bunch of products and they market it, it's almost always crickets. Always exceptions. I can think of an exception off the top of my head, Spiritual Gangster. But hey, Spiritual Gangster to me sounds like a winning slogan. Like, I love Spiritual Gangster. I own so many Spiritual Gangster clothing because I feel like my values align with them and it's really relatable and I love the brand. But that's like one exception of one, which I would actually argue is if you were in the spirituality niche and your brand wasn't Spiritual Gangster and you put that on a shirt and you were the very first one to do that, I could see you going viral with it. And then that might be a good time to turn it into a brand, right? But that's rarely the case. Rarely. I would say like 1% or less of the time, that's actually the case. The next elements that we see that winning designs generally are not, I'm just going to clump these two together because they're kind of similar, is overly complex and numerous color combinations. So like, I have to keep reiterating that there's exceptions to the rules for everything. But what we're trying to give is we're trying to give you guys some general guidelines from people who have created multiple six-figure designs and seen hundreds of six-figure designs, maybe thousands, just the general recommendations to give you the best chance at having your designs go viral for you, right? And so what we can say from our own experience is I actually cannot think of a single winning design I've ever created that's more than 2 colors. And I actually can't even think of one off the top of my head that is 2 colors. Our designs are almost always purely white on dark shirts or purely black on light shirts. Or, maybe it's like navy design on a trendy, like a off-white shirt, something like a sand or something like that. But almost every design we've ever created that one was all white or all black. And this is another thing that we see very, very commonly. Now, we do see winning designs that have multiple colors, and some of them are even complex. But when you look at most of them, well, when we look at most of them, we notice that most of them are not complex, and most of them only have one or two colors. Anything you want to add to that, Carlos?
No, that's well said.
Okay.
It's exactly that way.
Right. So what we're giving you here, these are our general recommendations based on our experience, what we've seen from our students and other successful brands. So knowing all of this, let's actually talk about some six-figure designs. And I think you're going to be surprised by how simple some of these are. Some of them are just purely text-based, and the other ones that we're going to mention, they're very, very simple when it comes to the design. So I just want to take you through a couple slogans. Now, this is an audio first podcast, so we don't have the design graphics to show you, but what I will say is that on our YouTube channel at adrian.vonarks, we post weekly YouTube content, and many, many times we feature best-selling designs. So if you want to actually see six-figure designs or winning designs or design trends, we talk about that all the time over there. And we actually show you examples. So definitely go check that out. It's just different, right? Or we have our YouTube short form content where we do show a bunch of graphics and whatnot. And then we have our audio first podcast, which is this, what you're listening to, where you just get to see our faces if you're watching on YouTube. So let's jump into it. The first winning design, this is a multiple six-figure design, and it is so simple. This is what it says: I love wine and country music. So anytime we see a design that's winning, one of the first things we like to do is reverse engineer that design and kind of pick apart the elements that led to its virality. And I want to do that with you guys right now so you can learn how to do this, and you can go out and you can apply this on the designs that you're researching. So this design made multiple six figures, all right? The first thing I noticed right away is that it's relatable. I love wine and country music. Right? It's relatable. It appeals to identity. It appeals to people who love wine and who love country music. And what we found, because we know the creator of this design, is that these two audiences, there's large overlapping audiences here. So there's a lot of wine lovers who also love country music, and a lot of them tend to be female. We call this niche stacking, and this can be a very powerful sales strategy. And when you do learn more about your niche, what you're going to start realizing is, in general, there are overlapping audiences, right? It's like cat lovers and tea drinkers, coffee lovers and book readers. There's a lot of niches that have large overlapping audiences. And if you can learn what those are and you can speak to those people, man, that's like getting right to the heart. That's just going right for the jugular, because it makes it even more relatable for people. The last thing I want to mention is that the design's very simple. It's almost purely text-based. There's just a tiny little wine glass. They probably got this from a Canva element, and then a tiny little music note icon. They probably also got that from a Canva element. So this is a design that could have been created in 5 minutes or less. Carlos, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It combines two overlapping audiences, basically, and it speaks like directly to them. If you don't like wine and country music, then you're not the audience. If you love wine and country music, then you are that audience, and this is something that is directly relatable to you, super relatable, and you're going to want to wear it because you're going to want to speak your passion.
Right, exactly. Let's talk about the next one. So here's another six-figure design. This one's a multiple six-figure design, purely text-based. And all it says is, I may not be a Victoria's Secret model, but I could pick one up and squat her. So before we talk about the trademark infringement on this design and what we always recommend doing instead, let's reverse engineer the virality of this design. So first, it evokes emotion. It's hilarious for female gym lovers, right?
Definitely, yeah. This is a good one.
Right? And that leads to a lot of female gym lovers. They are like thick thighs save lives kind of. Those are slogans that appeal to them, right? They're more about like being muscular than about looking like a model. So essentially, it's kind of like the counterculture to these really, really skinny models, right? And that leads to the next thing is it's relatable for female gym enthusiasts. A lot of female gym enthusiasts, like even CrossFitters, like I think of CrossFitters immediately because they do so much weight training, right? I feel like this would be really relatable to them. And clearly it is because it's a multiple six-figure design. And then it's very simple, purely text-based, probably took 5 minutes in Canva. Now let's talk about the blatant trademark infringement on this design and what you can do instead. So guys, please never reference any brand name in your designs. Just don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. You're risking your entire brand by doing that, and we don't want that for anyone, right? Also, there's easy workarounds, right? So, for example, if we were recreating this design or using it as inspiration, we would change Victoria's Secret model to something like Supermodel. Problem solved. You're not infringing on any trademarks. You don't mention any brand names, but you still get the message across, right? I may not be a supermodel, but I could pick one up and squat her. I would think that that would be equally as powerful while not violating any trademarks. So just make sure that you're never infringing on any trademarks or copyrights. You really want to stay away from that. And we highly, highly advise against that. A lot of people, they're like, well, I see people doing it all the time on Etsy and stuff. Yeah, a lot of those brands get taken down. A lot of those people get sued. Trust us, just stay away from it. Just because others are doing it doesn't mean it's right. Like most people, I think it's wrong when you're referencing another brand like Nike on your slogans and stuff like that, right? So we just want you guys to play it safe because we want your brands to have staying power. We want them to last for a long time. Anything you want to add to that, Carlos, before we get to the next one?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you ever want to look up a trademark for any brand, just to make sure that you're not using a trademark, if it's a term or something like that, you can just go to USPTO and you can just do a trademark search and just type it in there and it'll show you everything. So it's really easy to check this to see if it's trademarked or not. And if it's a brand's name, if you know that it's a brand's name, just stay away from it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I'm going to kind of plow through these ones, pun intended with the word plow, because the next one is about gardening. So this next one is a six-figure design that says, hoeing ain't easy. I laughed out loud when I saw this. It's a design that's funny and relatable for gardeners. So let's reverse engineer it. It evokes emotion, right? It's funny. It's relatable to gardeners, and it's a very simple design. So this design was all text, and then they had really simple design graphics around the text. So they actually looked like just Canva design elements. Super, super simple stuff. But this is it. Like, these are actual examples of multiple six-figure designs. And we like sharing these because I think a lot of people actually seeing or hearing about these makes them feel more like, okay, I think I'm capable of doing this. And you are. So as we do kind of land the plane on this episode, I want to mention again that we do create short form YouTube videos every week where many of which we do feature best-selling designs. We show the best-selling designs. And many times we actually show you how to create similar designs, like how you could actually create something similar to this. We also talk about the latest trends, which is huge, being on trend with your designs or with design elements or other elements like the actual products that you're selling. So I actually just released a video yesterday showing the design estimated to have made over $1 million in sales in the last 20 months. And I show you how to create something very similar. I also reverse engineer their virality and kind of the different elements that kind of led to the success of that design. So if you do want to check that out, just search at Adrian.vonarks on YouTube or click the link below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're already on our channel. You can just go over to our video section and see it. Or if you're listening, you can just click the link in the show notes to our channel there. We don't gatekeep here. We don't believe in gatekeeping. We believe that there's always room for great new brands, and we want to see you win. So with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you for listening. We love you guys. Remember, start before you're ready. Take imperfect action. And remember, you're always one design away.
Hey, if you're loving the Print on Demand podcast and want more, please help us out by rating this on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening from. It only takes a minute, and this is one of the best ways to support the show and let us know that you're enjoying the weekly episodes. Thank you in advance, and we'll talk soon.